One day, my husband inquired about our financial situation, asking, "Hey, how much money do we have in that vault?" I chuckled, estimating, probably around $500,000 in total. However, the following day, upon returning home, I discovered a signed divorce paper on the living room table. Both my husband and the vault had vanished. My name is Megan, a 60-year-old working housewife who continues to toil diligently at my job. My passion lies in saving money, a habit instilled in me by my mother, who opened a savings account for me as a child. She explained that depositing money in the bank would make the numbers in my passbook grow, a concept I found thoroughly enjoyable. Commencing with a modest $1 deposit, I delighted in watching my savings accumulate. As my interest accrued by a few cents each year, it provided a delightful surprise to my younger self. My love for money and its workings led me to a career as a financial planner, offering advice on asset management. One day, a college friend approached me, sharing that an old childhood acquaintance named Eric was facing serious financial troubles due to his love for gambling. Intrigued, I agreed to meet with Eric to offer guidance. He was a handsome man with a refreshing smile, and my friend revealed his struggles with gambling and inheriting his parents' debt. Despite Eric's worries, I found his troubled expression endearing, and at my friend's request, willingly provided advice. Little did I know that this encounter would lead to a series of troublesome events. In retrospect, I may have had a bit of a crush on Eric, but I never anticipated the complications that would unfold. I advised Eric to consolidate his debts and reduce monthly payments to regain control of his life. Shortly thereafter, Eric and I began dating, despite the objections of my friend who cautioned against it. Nevertheless, we proceeded and eventually got married. I believed that marriage would enable us to confront Eric's family challenges together. Despite my decent income for my age, most of Eric's earnings were directed toward his existing debts. I ensured he severed financial ties with his parents to prevent the debt from escalating further. Additionally, I provided Eric with a monthly allowance of $1,000. When Eric decided to cut ties with his parents, his mother reacted with anger, calling him an ungrateful child and expressing regret over giving birth to him. His father also joined in, accusing me of being a thieving cat. My husband, Eric, exhausted from dealing with his parents' debts, finally reached his limit. He told them he was not their ATM and that he was doing his best. He came back to me, relieved to be free from his in-laws who consistently brought up their debts. Shortly after, we welcomed our son Walter into the world, a handsome boy like his father, and my pride and joy. Walter seemed to inherit Eric's lack of discipline and indecisiveness, noticing his father's carefree character. Over the years, Eric struggled with borrowing money from predatory lenders, dealing with loan sharks, and tricking friends into lending him money for gambling. Despite the challenges, I managed to keep Eric on the right track. After 25 years, we had significantly reduced Eric's debt to about $10,000, nearing full repayment. However, a turning point came when Eric received a call from his parents, informing him that his father had collapsed and was at the hospital. Eric left work early and messaged me, apologizing for breaking our promise to avoid seeing his parents. He explained that his father had suffered a minor stroke, and though not life-threatening, he shouldn't overexert himself. Eric expressed a desire to stay with his parents for a while to comfort them. Despite offering to join him, Eric insisted that I stay focused on work and avoid potential mistreatment from his parents. I provided Eric with some additional funds for hospital visits, assuming they might be struggling with hospital fees. Since then, Eric has been visiting his parents frequently, each time taking $350 to $450 from me. It seemed my in-laws were facing financial difficulties and relying on Eric for support. Although it amounted to around $1,100 to $2,200 a month, I chose to overlook it for the time being. A year had passed since my father-in-law's collapse, and both my in-laws had aged. I believed they needed someone to lean on. My perennial hobby, as always, was saving money. One day, as I took out my bank book from the vault with a grin, Eric, who usually showed little interest in me, stared and asked, "Hey, how much money do we have in that bank account you always look at so happily?" I casually responded, "It's about $500,000 now." However, the next morning, I found divorce papers filled out in the living room, and both Eric and the safe were gone. During breakfast, I couldn't help but smile, realizing Eric had been eyeing the money in the vault. Furthermore, he had planned to take the entire vault. Though not the brightest, the image of him attempting to carry the entire vault nearly made me burst out laughing. In our home, we have a red cat named Kate, and we've set up a pet camera to observe her adorable antics, a source of healing for my day. During lunch breaks, I'd watch the camera, finding my child, Kate, endlessly adorable. One day, as I switched on the camera, an unexpected scene unfolded in our living room on a weekday, my in-laws and my husband Eric engaging in an unbelievable conversation. They marveled at the nice house Eric was living in and praised his apparent good salary. Eric's father expressed pride, mentioning his own decent salary, but lamented that I took it all, leaving him with a $1,000 allowance. They consoled Eric, suggesting he deserved more and insinuating that I was exploiting him. Eric, seemingly forgetting that I had been working hard to pay off his debts, agreed with them, expressing agreement with their sentiments. It was as if he had entirely overlooked the efforts I had made on his behalf. I pondered what was happening in their minds. In the past, Eric was burdened with debt from his parents, obligated to provide them with cash every month, making it challenging for him to make ends meet. Now, he complained that it wasn't fair to receive only $700, especially when his wife had a bank book with substantial savings. As Eric voiced his dissatisfaction, my in-laws' eyes lit up, exchanging glances eagerly awaiting his response. "How much is in the bank book?" they inquired, leaning in with anticipation. "Last I heard, I think it was around $410,000 or $510,000, Eric replied. They probed further, questioning if that money rightfully belonged to him. Despite the disconnect between the effort he put in and the savings, they suggested it should be rightfully his. Eric, easily influenced and indecisive despite his good looks, conceded to their viewpoint. Despite our efforts to reduce his debt from nearly $230,000 to $12,000, it appeared that Eric was being manipulated by his parents once again. Witnessing this scene, with my precious savings at risk, left me feeling devastated. Tears streamed down my face at my work desk as I held my phone. I had been diligently managing living expenses from Eric's income, allocating most of it to debt repayment. Additionally, I provided him with a $700 allowance from my own pocket. Despite explaining this to Eric, it seemed that he had completely forgotten. Over the past 25 years, I had devoted myself to him wholeheartedly, but the current situation left me feeling sad and pitiful. My heart ached as if I were drowning in my own tears. It felt like I was on the verge of breaking, yet I made sure to record the conversation and sent the data to my son. That day, I left work early due to the emotional toll. Seeking solace, I went to my usual bar and poured out my troubles to the bartender, who gently comforted me. In that moment, all intoxication and love for my husband faded away. I thanked the bartender, expressing gratitude for his comforting words, and looked forward to sharing a pleasant dream with him next time. After leaving the bar, I returned home with determination. Entering my study, I contemplated how I could retrieve the bank book hidden inside that bulb. The task seemed unimaginable, but I knew I had to devise a plan to show them that underestimating me was a mistake. Focused more intensely than ever, I understood that gathering evidence was the crucial first step. Subsequently, I diligently checked the pet camera every day. To my dismay, the ugly truths began to emerge. My husband was bringing home a young woman during his supposed work hours, as if she were a regular guest about 3 times a week. Witnessing my husband's infidelity shattered my desire for a peaceful time watching our cat, Kate, who also seemed to be affected and wouldn't show up. They not only ruined my precious relaxation time, but also betrayed me, an act I found unforgivable. Determined to seek justice, I vowed to punish them severely one day. While working, I activated the pet camera again, only to discover that it wasn't the woman my husband was having an affair with, but rather my in-laws were back at our house. "Is everything arranged to take that bank book from Megan?" they asked with an unpleasant grin. I responded confidently, revealing my plan to take the entire vault. Concerned about the weight of the safe, my father-in-law offered to assist, and I assured him I could handle it. As I suspected, my husband, Eric, was good-looking but not very smart. Once again, I pledged in my heart to bring these people down to the depths of hell. I envisioned using the money from the bank book to go to the casino as a family and rebuild our lives. Despite a twinge of guilt about Megan's savings, my in-laws convinced Eric that their actions were justified for his happiness. They urged him to quickly divorce the woman he was seeing and leave the divorce papers, anticipating the money from the bank book and the arrival of his new wife. Eric reluctantly agreed, and the unsettling plan unfolded. I found myself oddly accepting of their motives, understanding the extent to which these individuals would go for money. Sipping coffee at my office desk, I recorded the scene unfolding on my phone screen. Strangely, I was no longer upset or sad. Instead, I felt a burning determination to give them a taste of their own medicine. The day finally arrived when my husband inquired about the money in the passbook on the vault. Casually, I informed him that there was about $500,000 in there. The next day, upon returning home, I discovered a signed divorce paper in the living room, and both my husband and the vault were gone. Smirking during breakfast, I acted swiftly, filing the divorce papers and reaching out to my son Walter immediately. "Your father finally stole the vault. I can't believe he managed to carry it. It's so heavy," I informed Walter. He suggested it was time to sever ties with my husband and inquired if he took everything in the vault. In reality, I had moved all the money to online banking, rendering the passbook worthless. Considering filing a police report, Walter recommended hiring a lawyer. Grateful for the advice, I decided to cut ties with my husband and reached out to a lawyer through my private investigator. Exasperated, I handed over the pet camera recording to both the police and the lawyer, waiting for their actions. Shortly after, my ex-husband called me frantically, questioning the empty passbook and the missing $500,000. Refusing to engage directly, I told him to communicate through my lawyer and blocked his number. I reported the incident to the police and sent the recording to my lawyer, feeling a sense of relief. This is what I wanted to do. Karma is a real pain, I thought, satisfied with the turn of events. I received a call from the police shortly after apprehending the thief. Unfortunately, the vault was damaged. It seems he forced it open. The contents inside were burned. To my dismay, my ex-husband and his parents discovered that the past book balance was zero. Evidently, they set fire to the vault, despite it being his first offense. Consequently, my ex-husband spent a few days in police custody, while his parents were released with a stern warning. After his release, my ex-husband broke into our former residence, demanding entry and claiming it was just a small prank. He insisted we were still married, causing a scene. I promptly called the police, and he was taken away again. Subsequently, I contacted my lawyer, who initiated the process of obtaining a restraining order. Seeking compensation for emotional distress due to infidelity, I planned to demand alimony. Despite doubts about obtaining money from his financially struggling family, I was determined to pursue alimony. It turns out his mistress promptly transferred $10,000 in alimony, but their relationship ended after the vault incident. As the money ran out, so did their love. It appeared my ex-husband, his parents, and his mistress were facing financial challenges. My ex-husband, on the verge of retirement, got fired from his job. His parents found jobs in cleaning, but were barely making ends meet. Although my ex-husband worked 3 part-time jobs, his gambling habits prevented financial stability. Refusing to reduce the alimony, I instructed my lawyer to convey that apology should be shown with actions, not words. If they were genuinely sorry, they should demonstrate it financially. Despite plans to clear his debt if he had stayed, my ex-husband succumbed to the influence of his gambling-addicted parents. Reflecting on the accumulated $500,000, a product of lifelong savings, I decided to enjoy life. I appreciate the simple joys of updating my bank book and have started a new bank account. Currently, I lead a relaxed life with my red cat Kate. My son occasionally visits and shares stories about his girlfriend. Now, I prioritize self-care and plan to purchase a new, larger vault. Kate, I'm content and happier than ever.